There are some pretty interesting fears and phobias that people have, from the fear of tight spaces to peanut butter being stuck to the roof of your mouth. I myself have a particular interest in fears that relate more to nature or the environment, mainly because I love nature, but because I can also recreate them in Minecraft, which is exactly what I did. So, for the first fear, we'll be covering thalassophobia, the fear of deep and open ocean. Most people do have this fear to a certain extent as it's in our evolution and genetics. However, certain people may feel intense fear or panic when around deep open ocean. There are heaps of images out there that can trigger the fear, and here are some of the ones I tried creating in Minecraft. So for the first build, we have this ledge thing right here. It may not look like much, but for someone with thalassophobia, it may creep them out quite a lot. Now pretty much all of my thalassophobia builds are based on real images, this one being no exception, as it's from a screenshot from the game Subnautica. And so this build right here is pretty much, I just took out a giant chunk of the ocean here, and then I kind of smoothed off the edges here and added some interesting little pinnacles and some seagrass and stuff. It's pretty simple overall, and is made a lot creepier and better looking in editing. So here's the base screenshot in Photoshop. The first thing I did was go ahead and add a filter on, which just kind of adds a lot of contrast and makes the image actually more visible compared to how it was before. Then I went ahead and removed a bunch of all these particles around just because I thought it looked kind of weird, so here it is now. And then I was thinking it wasn't looking very creepy because it is very bright down here, which is just a weird thing to do with the shaders that I'm using. So what I did was pretty much just mask off this entire area here, and I added some exposure layers to make it darker. So here's the first iteration. It's a little bit darker, and then I added another layer like this, and it's kind of in a gradient, so it's brighter at the top and then it goes darker as we go further down in the ocean. Then I was thinking it looks pretty bright down here on these blocks, so I added in another exposure layer like this, and so that adds a nice little darkened effect to the edges of all of these blocks, as you can see right here. And then to finish it all up, the last thing I added was a simple curves layer like this. It just kind of brings out the brighter colors and darkens the darker colors like that. And yeah, so that's the final image. A lot of these do use a lot of editing, so we'll be going back and forth between Photoshop and Minecraft. So on to the next build, we have a nice big shipwreck. This one is based on like a kind of like a medieval pirate ship. I also added a bunch of seagrass and kelp coming up over here to make it look kind of more interesting, I guess, and more natural looking. But yeah, this one's just plain and simple, just a shipwreck with a nice kelp forest in the background. Moving on to the third thalassophobia build, we have a little boat here. With this one, I pretty much tried recreating some popular images that are around on Google Images, where there's like a boat and then halfway in the middle of the image, there's like a line where it starts the underwater, I guess, as if the camera was like half in and half out of the water, which it's not really possible to do in Minecraft. So what I did was I took a picture pretty much right here, and then I took another picture of the underwater like this. We'll jump over to Photoshop and I'll show you how I connected those together. So here's the first image. As I was explaining, I'm really close to the water, and here's the boat. And then the second image is the underwater, pretty much directly below it. And what I basically did was I added a mask to this image here, and I'll just turn that on right now. So there you can see I kind of created like a wave shape, and it's basically just half this image and half the other image. Then I traced this line with a brush tool, just like a simple white brush. It's very not noticeable, but it kind of just makes the line a little bit nicer. And then the last thing I did was make the water down here a little bit darker by adding an exposure layer. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the third build. So for the fourth thalassophobia build, we have a big hole in the ground. So this one started off as a very small hole, actually. I'm not sure where it is. I can't really find it anymore, but it was just a pretty small hole, probably about that big. But it wasn't really scary enough, so I made just a giant hole like this. It just pretty much goes all the way down to the bottom of like bedrock. And yeah, once again, this one was enhanced in Photoshop to be made looking a lot creepier than it currently does right now. So this one was a very simple and easy one to edit. All I did was add in a nice filter like so. You can actually kind of see the image compared to what it was before. And then all I did was outline this area around here and add in an exposure layer like so, just making the hole look nice and creepy. And yeah, you really wouldn't want to fall down in there. But yeah, let's move on to the next one. So similar to the first build, we have another ledge that kind of just drops off into the abyss. And funnily enough, this one was made directly below the first one. And this one is actually kind of a recreation of a pretty popular image. It just shows a guy sitting on a ledge pretty similar to this one, and it just kind of drops off into the abyss. And once again, this one was heavily enhanced using Photoshop to make look a lot creepier. So similar to the first one and also the whole one, all I did was add in a nice filter like so, kind of a more subtle one. And then I masked around the entire water area around here and added an exposure layer, making it nice and dark at the bottom. So the remaining three builds are based around a pretty cool popular horror game that I found recently called Iron Lung. I highly recommend checking it out if you enjoy kind of deep ocean horror. But yeah, I basically tried to recreate the small submarine that you play in that game. Obviously it's not perfect as I'm kind of limited to what details I can actually add around the place, but yeah, the idea was just to have a nice window like this, showcasing the abyss out there. And yeah, all I did for editing in this one was adding a simple filter, so I won't bother showing you that one. So onto the second last build, we have just a simple pile of bones. We've got a skull and also some ribs sticking out of the ground here. And this obviously would belong to some kind of giant sea monster creature thing that probably would have looked pretty creepy, as it's got some giant teeth at the front here and also some pretty large looking ribs at the back as well. Once again, for this one, I didn't really do too much in editing. All I did was add in a simple filter. So yeah, let's move on to the final Thalassophobia build. So this last one is pretty far away at the moment, but I'm going to slowly move up to it right now. And this one is based on a pretty creepy looking fish from the Iron Lung game. As you can see here is my first iteration of the face. For this one, the shape wasn't really up to my liking. It was kind of egg shaped and it had a bunch of teeth, which do look creepy in hindsight, but in the next one I didn't actually add that in. So onto my second iteration over here, which is a lot more creepy in my opinion. It'd probably look a lot creepier with the teeth, but I was just trying to kind of match the fish face from the game. But yeah, we've kind of got like an anglerfish kind of shaped mouth and some giant big black eyes with a white little center for the pupil, which does look fairly creepy. And then I was pretty lazy creating the body, so all I did was just make like a giant thing back here, and it kind of just gives the illusion that there's like more to the fish off in the distance. But yeah, this one definitely took the longest out of all of the different Thalassophobia builds, as it took a while trying to get the shape right for everything. But yeah, so that's it for all of the Thalassophobia builds. Now let's move on to the next fear. Submechanophobia is quite a specific and weird fear to have, and all it is just the fear of partially or fully submerged man-made objects. Oddly enough, I honestly understand this fear, as some of these images personally do make my feet tingle just a little, and I'm not quite sure what it is about them that creeps me out. So for the first submechanophobia build, we have a oil rig. So this one is modeled after just any plain old oil rig base, I guess. This is kind of what they look like under the water, and they just extend all the way up until they reach the surface of the water. As you can see here, I got lazy and didn't complete the build because all you really see in the final picture is just this area here, so not really any point creating the rest. So honestly, the video for this one is pretty creepy. The Minecraft build isn't as creepy as probably most of the builds are in this video. I tried my best recreating it and making it look kind of creepy in Photoshop. I won't bother showing you the Photoshop because it's just a simple filter once again, and I did increase the fog quite a bit as well, so it kind of looks like there is an abyss behind it instead of like the actual ocean floor behind it, which makes it feel a little bit more creepy. Onto the next one, we have a flood shaft. I'm not exactly sure what that means. I'm pretty sure it just means that like it's just a giant area that fills up with water or something like that. But yeah, this one is also based off a real image, and it's pretty much of like a metal staircase like this one that heads down into the water. The reason why this doesn't continue is because I made the water opaque and like kind of a brown color. I did that with a bunch of shader settings that I can't really be bothered trying to figure out again. So just imagine that this kind of extends all the way down in the water, and the water is opaque and brown. But yeah, I wanted to include a bunch of lights as well, as the reflections look kind of cool in the water. And yeah, just trust me, the real life version of this is a lot more creepier than this one. So for the next one, we have a submerged subway entrance. This one, also being based on a real life image, is pretty much just what it is. Yeah, it's a subway entrance that is flooded basically. This one's probably the least creepy of all of the three in my opinion, but it does look kind of cool. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is to this build. So for the final submechanophobia build, we have just this kind of entrance thing. This was meant to be more of like a submarine bay or something like that. We're kind of above the water here, and then below the water is like a void with a little platform down here. As someone did point out in the comment of this post, it would have been creepier if the ladder was just kind of going down into the abyss instead of having a platform here, which I agree probably would have looked creepier. But yeah, this one is just quite a simple build, and yeah, that's all there really is to it. Xylophobia is, surprisingly, not the fear of xylophones. It is, however, the fear of forests. This is probably a more common fear compared to the first two, as I'm sure a lot of you may feel creeped out by some of these images. And so I tried my hand at creating some interesting and creepy forests, so let's take a look at them. For the first forest, we have a bamboo forest. This one was created quite a while ago, probably around last year sometime, and it wasn't really created to be creepy, but simply turning it to nighttime does make it look kind of creepy for anyone that might have xylophobia. But yeah, this build just pretty much consists of this wide pathway here with a canal in the middle, and it does progress up into a stairway and then to a giant black wall like we have on all the sides here. But the fog does make it look pretty creepy as we move further back. And yeah, so simply just a giant bamboo forest. Something else that actually does make this look a lot nicer than if you were to go and create a bamboo forest yourself is the fact that the leaves are on pretty much all of these stalks here, except for some at the top. And that was done using the debug stick that you can spawn in Java version. I'm not sure if you can spawn it in Bedrock version, so let me know in the comments. But yeah, all I did was just right click a bunch of these and add on some leaves to all of them just to make them look really bushy and nice looking. The next build is also one that we created quite a while ago. This one was actually intended to be spooky, and all it consists of is once again a big pathway in the center with our nice forest on either side. And we've also got a bunch of soul lanterns and some candles as well around the place just to kind of give it a more atmospheric, creepy kind of vibe. And so to build this one, all I did was basically create a bunch of custom trees. All I needed to make was 3 in total here, and then what I did was copy each of them in World Edit and paste them around the place, and that's pretty much how it looks like. There is a lot of different kinds of trees, as it's all just these 3, but they've been rotated and placed all in different areas, so they all look kind of different. But yeah, so this one was pretty easy to make. It did, however, take a long time to do, and yeah, hopefully it's pretty creepy looking. Next up, we have another spooky forest that I created. This one I made quite a while ago, and it was for a spooky forest update idea that I created. So feel free to check out that video if you want to. But yeah, it pretty much just featured me walking along this path and going inside this house, and I'll leave it there, so be sure to go watch the video. But yeah, this one is pretty similar to the last one. All I did was create a couple of custom trees, and then I just pasted them all around the place to create pretty much a custom biome. And yeah, the whole idea behind it was to add this nice spooky biome into Minecraft with these nice big tall creepy looking trees and like a cool house that could spawn in the center with a little bit of a scare in it. And now for the final build, we have once again another forest. This one obviously not meant to be creepy, but does look kind of creepy during the nighttime. This one was also created the same way that I created all the other ones except for the bamboo one. It's basically just a couple of custom trees that have been pasted around the place. And this one was actually for a time-lapse video quite a while ago that I made, and it's based around this kind of weird triangular shaped cabin that I created. It does look kind of weird nowadays. I would do a lot of things to change this, but if you want to watch me create this forest and this house, then feel free to check that video out. So that's it for all of the phobia related builds I've created so far. Now there's one question you may or may not have, and that is, but Disruptive, what is your worst fear? For those of you that have followed me on Instagram for a while may know already, but I'll be revealing it in the next video by recreating the worst nightmare I've ever had. So be sure to subscribe with notifications on to be notified. And so that's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.